You're listening to Radio Eden. Radio Eden. And we've got a quite a gruesome subject online. Talking online today with Trey Smith, also from Texas. Gruesome subject. Most people you talk to today, if you ask them about God, a lot of people believe, God exists and he's there somewhere. If you ask them about heaven, a lot of people tend to believe that yes, there is a heaven. When I die, that's the place where I go. But then you take it one step further and you ask them about hell, and it is quite interesting. Majority of people, they would say stuff like hell is here on earth, or hell is my work, my job, my dog, whatever. But very few people actually believe in the reality of hell, and yet Jesus talked more about hell than he talked about heaven. We are talking today with Trey Smith about the Book of Enoch, and one thing you've got in the Book of Enoch as well is he talks as well an awful lot about hell. Trey, what do you think about hell? Something to be feared?
Yes. Hell is extremely real. But before in looking at Enoch, this is a text. This is a text that I have probably spent months on now. In fact, most every evening, along with studying other things, I will always end up on Enoch for at least a time period. And some nights I even listen to the entire Enoch read on audio. In fact, just last night, what I was praying. I was looking at the text, and it was late. And there's so much richness in those texts. There's so much precision to it, but there's so much fight against that text of Enoch. And there's an interesting statement that's made in the book of Daniel, that there are some words that are closed up to the end. And I find it fascinating that this book of Enoch seems to surface and have some life to it just prior to Jesus and just after Jesus, before the church itself is condemning this text and making it a heresy to have a copy. In fact, one of the things a lot of people don't know about, people view Catholicism and Christianity as the same. And I've got some Catholic friends, and in fact there's some priests out there that are incredible people. But in the dark ages of time, when Catholicism took control, they would literally kill you for having a copy of the Bible. They would put you on a stick. They would put the illegal Bible that you had around your neck, and then they would burn you alive so that other people could watch you. And yet I hear atheists say that they're trying to push the Bible on you to control you. Does that sound like people that want you to have a copy of the Bible?
It's interesting you're making the point. A lot of reformers who were turning back to the Bible, they got burned at the stake. I mean, one example is Tyndale. You've got Jan Hus.
Yes. The first century church, many commentators wrote about this book, this very book that we're talking about on this radio show right now, this book called Enoch. And they held it in very high regards. And many of these very same men who held that book in high regards, some of which are commentators that actually sat and listened to Jesus speak. These are in time periods where Nero would come along in 150 AD, and he's bragging that he is lighting his gardens by wrapping Christians in tar so he can light his gardens as a message. In fact, stating on one of his famous steels that the Christians have been the Christians have been crushed, and in their blood we now have rise to the old gods. Does this sound like a guy that wants you to believe in Jesus Christ? And yet these people would go to their very deaths knowing that it was a death sentence. That's how much they believe those words, and that's because you had people, when you're that close to the time of Jesus Christ, all of those unusual events that get mocked at in this day and age and hour we live in now, because it's so far in the past, maybe it's just myth, right? Well, those people were willing to become nothing more than a torch in Nero's garden because of what they believed. Bring on the flames.
It's fascinating when you look back to this time. One book I recommend our listeners to read is called Fox's Book of Martyrs, and you get a lot of stories collated within this book. It's been written 1500 something, but a lot of stories from those days, from especially the first 3 centuries, which have been passed on from generation to generation, are found in that book. But it's absolutely fascinating, and it's rightly, as you say, in those days you became a Christian, and the day you decided to follow Christ was pretty much a death verdict. Yeah, and today we have still got something similar. I know I used to work sometime in Pakistan, and probably not going to make myself very famous for saying this, but I know one guy, he became a Christian, and he had to move away from his hometown because, in faithful adherence to the book they have, his family had threatened to kill him. Not threatened to kill him, they were intending to kill him, and he had to be displaced. And so you see the same thing today as well. In some parts of the world, you give your life to Christ, and pretty much there's a death verdict on you from the moment you commit your life to Christ. And that is the cost of following Jesus. And it's fascinating that despite everything, people said, yeah, I want to follow Jesus, and I want to spend my eternity with this man. And I believe that he is the way to God. And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Okay,
it plays a direct role in what Enoch is telling you. So it is fascinating to note that and whether you're dealing with the New Age, which will tell you that every truth is the truth except for believing in Jesus Christ. All truths are right, which is a self-contradictory statement to begin with. All truths cannot obviously be right. Or you're dealing with any of these other fashions, you're always going to come back to a fight against Jesus Christ. Now, in the book of Enoch, and last night, in fact, I said, Lord, just show it to me in the text themselves. I know that you have put it in there, and it, just like you did in the book of Daniel and other things. If this text is authentic, it reads differently than the pseudepigrapha text that they toss it in these piles of. If you don't believe that, then read a book of the lost books of the Garden of Eden. Read one of the childhood or the infancy of Jesus Christ. You can tell these within 30 minutes you will have established it's a pseudepigrapha work, and Enoch gets tossed in there with that. There is something different about them words on those pages that is not like those texts. When I was looking at it last night, my eyes were drawn to look at the parts of Enoch that talk about the astronomy of the universe and the way that the universe works. Now, bear in mind that you're reading this text given to you by R.H. Charles, a translation that was done in 1922. So you're getting a lot of Charles's dialogue and stuff in there. You're getting the word, I reckon this and I reckon that. So you're hearing a lot of R.H. Charles. You've got to look beyond that, and you've got to look at what Enoch is telling you.
It's always a problem when you look at text. I mean, Book of Enoch, what language is the original? Is it Latin or Greek? Or the original probably Hebrew, but what copies have you got today in the source text?
The original text, in my opinion, would have been written in the original tongue of man, which is going to be the most authentic, and what they're calling the Enochian language. What you're dealing with is the most beautiful and glorious thing. You're dealing with the most ancient of ancient Hebrews.
True.
All languages come from Hebrew. All languages point towards Israel. So if you are to the south, if you're looking at languages that are on the south of the countries and nations that are going to be on the right of Israel, their languages are going to read from the right to the left, pointing in towards Israel. Same thing on the other side. The nations that are to the left are going to read from the left to the right, all pointing to that chosen land in the center. The Hebrew language is both phonetic and pictographic. So your hieroglyphic languages extend out from the hieroglyphic, and you can actually see this in the text, whether you're looking at Egyptian or you're looking at stuff that would be muddled down, watered down stuff that would come afterwards, like your Mayan cultures and such. When you're looking at your pictographic languages, these are an extension that come out of Hebrew. When you're looking at your Arabic languages, these are any of your languages, including your Greek. You're following phonetics that are coming out of the other side. Hebrew was a combination of both. It was both phonetic and pictographic. But back to what those pages are saying in the astronomy of those texts, it's talking about the sun. When it's saying that the sun comes from this portal and that portal and this portal and that portal, it is not talking about something that you would read like in the Quran or that you would read from some ancient Sumerian document. What it is telling you in those pages, Enoch is giving you 6 different areas from which, when the sun comes up like this, then your times of daylight will be X amount of time. He's divvied the day up into 18 parts. So you'll have 9 parts of light and 9 parts of darkness, or you'll have 10 parts of light and 8 parts of darkness. He's charting for you the day and the night. This plays a critical role because he's going to go on to explain to you the months, right? And the differences between a 30-day month and the differences between a 29 and a 28-day month. He's also going to tell you the 4 different seasons and how these divvy up. But what he's going to tell you about the sun, just to clear up any mistranslations or miscommunications delivered by the text, God is extra cool like this because Enoch is telling you at least 3 times that the sun burns the whole way around. This is something that wasn't even known. Well, let's just keep going. So that's strike one of something he shouldn't have known. He's telling you specifically, by the way, it burns the whole way around. Then he's going on. If that text was written the day that they claim it was found in the caves of Quran, if it was written and fraudulently fabricated that very hour that it was put in those urns, it should not have possessed that information alone. Now let's go on to the next part that it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you that the sun and the moon are not the same size. How would he know that? Everybody assumed they were because they line up. He tells you that as well. It's
interesting as well. Just to stop you at this point, I think because modern man doesn't understand much about astronomy these days compared to their counterparts a few hundred years ago. It's actually fact, when you compare the moon in the sky and you compare the sun in the sky, they are identical in size. And it's quite amazing because the only time you can really see it is when you've got a solstice, when the moon pushes in front of the sun and it just covers it 100%, and so you can just see the rim of the sun, which is very bizarre astronomically. And there's another thing as well. I think the distance of the Earth to the sun from the Earth to the moon, there's a factor of 400. There are a couple of 400s or something. It's 400 times closer or something.
He's telling you about the solar eclipse that they're designed to line up properly. This is knowledge he should not have known. He's also telling you something else that he most certainly should not have known, and that is that the moon, and this belief would not come into play until a lot after Jesus Christ. That the moon does not give off its light; it receives its light from the sun. And then he's going through the different phases of the moon. And these can seem redundant, but I'm telling you, the answers to the very question of is it authentic are buried right inside what he's telling you, because he's telling you things that he should not have known. And if that document's a fraud, that's an impressive fraudster that was making up that document. He's telling you that the moon is receiving its light from the sun. But oh no, it doesn't stop there. Enoch's going to go on. He tells us, this is where you get the passage out of Enoch, where he's telling his son Methuselah, make sure this document makes it to the generations of the world. Then what does he say next? Through R.A.H. Charles's voice, he says, they will reckon the days of the year wrong, but I have them right in my text. Deliver these to the ages of the world. They're going to calculate the days at 360 days. He was right on that in the book of Enoch. He did his work out to 364 days and some change, and even does the math for you on leap year in that text. Now you say to yourself, 364 days. Well, Enoch's a day off. No, he's not. You've got a missing day. In Joshua's missing day, you get 1 day added. That makes a complete 365. You would have an incredibly difficult time compelling me to believe that Enoch got the numbers that precise but was just off by 1 day. No, he wasn't. In the hour he wrote the text, the reason why the leap year comes out properly in his text is because he had it accurately. More than this, the cultures that would come after that flood would in fact all work on a 360-day year calendar. I don't know where these people get it from, where they talk about, oh, the Mayans had this precision calendar and this other. I did a video on this, and this is a rock calendar. They did not have a perfect neither did people before them have a perfect calendar, or the Babylonians, or they had a 360-day calendar. And they had to make up for the extra time occasionally. Different cultures did that in different ways, but at some point you got to make up for the extra days that you're missing. So whether you add 30 days after a number of years accumulate, or however you do it, it wasn't until the Gregorian calendar that we got this worked out pretty well. Some would argue about it, but it's pretty close. What I'm telling you is that text of Enoch is telling you the right measurements back then. He's telling you that the earth is round. He's telling you that the sun goes around it. He's telling you the phases of the sun. And he's telling you about the stars. And by the way, he's telling you that when one dies, it represents that a fallen angel occurred, or something like this. When those stars are all named and numbered. So you've got the stars, even when you're dealing with the new age, or you're dealing with the zodiac or astrology, or these different types of ideas, what they're trying to do, or the Illuminati, quote unquote, if you were really in Freemasonry, what they would be telling you, or if you were a Catholic Pope, or a high black Jesuit priest, what they would be telling you is the rule above all rules in Luciferianism is so above, so beneath. What are they talking about? They're talking about the stars. And Enoch is laying out for you, the stars can be twisted just like anything else. To be some kind of occult thing that you're reading as astrology to predict your own future and your love life and whether or not you're going to get to do this or that. That's not what those stars are there for. That is God's billboard. He marked up there with a great big marker, a Sharpie up in the sky. This is how it's going to happen, but only if you know how to read it. And that's what those Hebrews were doing. When you're looking at those signs in the sky, those are just the tip of the iceberg. And in Enoch, he's telling you that God himself has named every one of those stars. But everything here is a symbolism of something else, even our very lives. Enoch starts his book by this: I took up my parable. I write to you on behalf of the elect. It is for them that I write. My book is not for my generation, but for a remote one, which is for to come, the last generation, when the wicked and the godless are to be removed. That's why the visions in Enoch are taking you through all of the ages of man and speedballing you up to that moment of the Antichrist, is because that's not the Antichrist's hour. That's the Lord God's hour. That's the hour Enoch is talking about when he says the wicked and the godless are to be removed. There shall be a new heaven. There shall be a new earth. That's what he's telling you, that the garden that was taken away from mankind is coming back. That's what he's saying in those pages. When he talks about the winds and the weather, this is a guy living in a time period where there aren't cars and airplanes, right? People don't move around very far. Yet he's telling you that the North Pole is covered with snow and ice and hail, and it's freezing. He's telling you that the South Pole is snow and ice and freezing, just like the North one. He's telling you that the center is warm with hot gushes of air that come in and they circulate by the Lord's design. This is what he's telling you about the global conditions of the earth, and he's telling you stuff about the stars that he should not have known, and that certainly the Greeks didn't know. And it was not a Jewish text either. You could say, well, some Coptic Jews wrote this, or some Coptic Christians. You couldn't say Coptic Christians put it together after the fact, because you find the document prior to Jesus Christ. You also cannot claim it as a Jewish text, because it's not focused on Moses or Abraham. Now, it walks you through these people, never mentioning them by name, doesn't spend a minute of time on them. It is rushing to get you to who Enoch describes as the Son of Man more than 12 times, which, mind you, is what Jesus Christ called himself many times while he was here, the elect one before the Lord of spirits. In Enoch's book, there are 3 parts to God: find me. Where other than holy or holy, holy are you going to find this in the Hebrew text? Other than the fact that Jesus Christ is buried in the very name Yahweh itself in the opening of Genesis. When you say Yahweh, you're saying behold the hands, behold the nails. This is what literally the high priests were saying repeatedly while they're sprinkling blood on the Ark of the Covenant and asking for atonement for the sins of Israel way before Jesus Christ ever come. Every drop of blood they're sprinkling on that altar in the Holy of Holies, when they're saying Yahweh, they're saying behold the hands, behold the nails.
Fascinating.
And in fact, if you work out what they were walking around looking like in that desert out there, when they're out there in the wilderness, right? When they're doing their circles for 40 years, and the format of how God had them camp, if you do the math on those numbers, there's no detail in those biblical texts. People overpass numbers. They overpass genealogies. Your best stuff is buried in genealogies and numbers. God is not handing you that stuff accidentally nor tritely. If you pay attention to what he's saying, you find what he's saying. When those Jews, when he's giving you the count of the Jews at the camp that are walking around in the wilderness, and he's giving you the precise instructions of how the camp was to be made up, that camp was an enormous cross walking around on the desert floor. If you were to look at it at night from the sky, all the little campfires would have made an enormous precision, not sort of a cross, precision cross, with the Holy of Holies and the Levites being camped right in the center of that cross. And the tribe of Judah, which would produce Jesus, the actual delivery mechanism of the Messiah himself, that longest thing coming down from below and above the smallest one of the tribes and coming out from the two sides, that were divvied up into sections of 3. That was an enormous cross walking on the desert floor. More than this, when you're looking at those pages of Enoch, and he's taking you through hell, which is where we were supposed to start at. But I thought it was more important to give you some credibility in the text before we delve in to what demons are. Demons are the dead offspring. They are the actual, every being on this planet is a spiritual entity. You and me, that's what the texts are saying when they call you a vessel. You're holding your physical flesh, your body, your temporal stuff. That's exactly what it is. It's an apparatus. It's a biological machine. In fact, it's made of computer programming. That's how it's constructed. It's made of little bitty DNA strands, which are digital coding, which put you together at the very start. Then it's made up of a bunch of cells, which are nothing more than very sophisticated factories running every piece of your whole symbiotic system, which you consciously control. You are a spirit. What we've been calling a spirit, that's the real you that is harbored inside a physical body. That physical body, when it drops dead, for those Nephilim things, the offspring of the fallen angels, they're neither human nor are they all angel. They don't go to heaven, but they also don't immediately go to hell, but they're standing right on top of it. Their footsteps walk on top of their own fate. But with their own eyes, they can see through the glass darkly, and they can watch you as you walk through your day-to-day life. They're the evil spirits that inhabit the place, that are tempting man. Hell is a reduction of access to God. Right now, you're in a place that's mixed with both evil and good. You are in a...
just say this again. I think it's very important. Hell is the... What did he say? The absence or the...
It's the absence of access to the create. It is a reduction in access to anything. Here on
it's quite
earth,
an interesting
you have
term.
less access than you will in heaven. You have less. You are confined to a finite space. You are bound by physical laws and rules, and you are compartmentalized into a physical body. We don't even comprehend what it would be like without those limitations. Hell is less than what you've got now by a lot. The demon things are between. They can see you. They can come to you. They can whisper it. The little angel on one shoulder, the classic example, the little angel on one shoulder, devil on the other. This is closer to the truth than one may imagine. They're watching you. They wish they could be you. This is part of the reason why Enoch was calling them the Watchers. They can't tangibly interact without your invitation, which is the purpose of the ceremonies that you find. Everybody tosses around this word like Luciferian. We all sort of understand there are these Illuminati guys, and maybe they're sort of Luciferian. Where does that come from? I'll tell you where it comes from. It's not a joking little thing. Let me tell you what it means. The underworld gods, the spirits that they give glory to, these are the spirits that went out from those Nephilim when they died, and they roam the earth, and they're looking for a host. They're desperate for anybody to talk to them. So if you're dabbling a little bit with the occult, you've opened a doorway, and you're going to get results. Find me one person who has dabbled with the occult that it has not produced results for. Maybe not the results that they like, but nonetheless results. And we start talking about, I think there's an entity talking to me, or an ascended master, or there's a voice that I can hear now that's guiding me to do things. But wait a second, those rituals can go more, because these things like exactly what they liked in the book of Enoch. They like violence. They like the blood of man. They like viciousness. They like the sacrifice of the innocent. They like everything God is not. Every quality that is not God. And this culminates
Let me just butt in a little bit. I think you make a really good point there. That first of all, access to the Creator. And you said there anything what God is not. And I think the key points here, God is number one, righteous and just, but he is also love. And I think this is quite interesting as well. When I look at Christianity and I look at other religions, Christianity is the only religion where God is love. You look at Islam, they've got about umpteen names for God, but interestingly, not a single name is love. They call him merciful, strong, victorious, all the rest of it, but they don't call him love.
They also call him the deceiver.
Interesting as well, yeah. I mean, I've got my ideas what God is described in the Quran. One thing is certain, the God of the Quran and the God of the Bible, they're not the same. And it's a warning. Warning to Christians listening here. Go ahead, Trey.
When the Muslims are worshiping Allah, who they're really worshiping is it actually comes from the god Bel. And this isn't something loose, nor is this hard knowledge to attain. You can type this in on the internet, and you should find tons of articles about it. But that does, in fact, turn out to be what they're calling Allah is actually Bel or Beelzebub. It goes back to that, and a lot of the stuff that you're getting out of Catholicism is actually identical to Muslim. So when you hear atheists or New Age people, whatever, and they refer to Christianity and Catholicism, these are really two different entities. Now, this does not mean that people in Catholicism are not going to make it to heaven. What I'm telling you is this: is that Christianity had spread so much during the first couple of centuries. I mean, it was persecuted. They tried to quench him out. Nero was lighting his gardens with them, but none of that worked. People wanted to believe in love. The very thing that Jesus Christ, when they asked him, what is the commandment above all the commandments? The Pharisees will come in and save the day. Whenever you need an answer about how stuff works, trust the Pharisees. They'll come in and ask the question that will send them off running. What does Jesus say? Is the greatest commandment of all the commandments: love the Lord thy God with all of your heart, all of your mind, and all of your spirit, and love your neighbor as yourself. And your neighbor is everybody. God's salvation came to the entire world. This is the reverse of the mindset of the other one. So when you're dealing with Catholicism and this under Constantine, Christianity became legal. A couple of generations later, it becomes the state religion. Now, in Rome, you had all sorts of paganism. What Catholicism has been and is today, it is every type of paganism wrapped in a very thin Christian veneer. Like the worship of Mary, all of this stuff. The Mary in the Catholic Bible is really Diana or Isis. It goes back to any of these gods. When you're listening to Loyola, who started the Jesuits, who they call the black popes or the black priests, and that color schematic is not come up with just because of the color of the robes that they wear. There's some deeper things there that I don't wish to go into. But where did he have his encounter? In a cave where a being of light appeared to him in front of a statue of who supposedly Mary. Mary is not Mary. Mary goes back to a long list of goddesses, fertility goddesses from the Babylonian world. What happened to Muhammad? He went into a cave inside. Being of light appeared to him. What was Muhammad's philosophy? It's basically do what thy will, right? As long as you're the guy in charge. That's the same thing the Luciferians believe. That's the same thing Aleister Crowley said. Do what thy will. There's no wrong. Do what thy will. Thy will be done. Your will, not God's will. Your will. There's no withholding. You go do any evil thing you want. And what this culminates in is really being a slave and a servant to these things that we call demons, that some people are calling aliens, that other people called underworld gods. And where this starts out with is a little bit of sex, a little bit of lust, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of good drink. And then next thing you know, in any of these cultures that I can find, the depravity goes super far. Next thing you know, you're sacrificing your babies on altars. And you're playing drums loud enough that nobody can hear the babies screaming while you toss them on the fire. And you've got the faces of these ancient gods painted on the walls as if you're handing your babies to be fed by these beasts and letting the blood run into the streets. I'm telling you, there's power in the blood. In every one of those ancient Babylonian cultures, kings would spare no expense to sacrifice other people's lives so that they could please themselves.
And these
Jesus
entities.
Christ, the name that they run from is God himself.
Amen.
Not just saying he has all of these qualities. I am love. I am patient. I am peace. I am peace. I am humble. But actually physically walking through it. And then being the sacrifice of all sacrifices. That is the day in the book of Enoch, in the pages of the New Testament. And every demon, every little evil spirit that dwells or walks or crawls underneath the deepest rock in the pits above hell and beneath trembles at. It's the very reason why that those things, from the little alien stuff to the little demonic stuff, it's the reason why when you say the name of Jesus, that there becomes a difference in the room that you're in. People that are tormented by, I've got shadow people affecting me at night. Well, try the name of Jesus. Well, how would that work? Well, how do you know it doesn't until you've tried it? And then when they do, what occurs? Holy crap. These things can't stay here. There really is a reason why they're terrified of that name, because you're dealing, just like we're dealing with physical laws here.
The spiritual laws.
These things are bound by rules, boundaries that they can't cross, and they're fighting for any arm's reach into this place. And the thing that attracts them the most is the blood of the innocent. That's why when you get hardcore Luciferian, you're now talking about secrety, weakery little things. Or we want to do little secret rituals. And what we really want to do is we want to sacrifice an animal. No. What we really want to do is we want to sacrifice a little, maybe we can breed some babies and we can sacrifice them. No. What we really want to do is we want to drink the blood, because that would give us all of this stuff, all of this madness is rooted right back there in Genesis 6. With the fallen angels that come in and they want to teach mankind what they have to offer. What they had to teach us was chaos, disharmony, violence, misery, struggle, and it only gets worse. When a person steps out of this place and they followed all of those little desires, see, it's not even them that's lived. It's the little things that you don't understand that have lived through them, that are just laughing and heckling and think it's just cute as can be, to rip through you and watch your soul go into that place that they view. Many people listening to this show, you don't believe it's real. It's not. This is all flusy play game stuff. It's not real. Let me tell you something. This place that you're in right now, the thing you're calling real, is less real than that place. You're living the less real thing. And no matter how long you're alive for, you're going to be dead longer.
Scary. Absolutely scary. The point I sort of want to make at this stage is I was reading the book of Enoch, and I was reading all the reports about hell and the way he was describing it, that it's a huge, vast place. And he was sort of going into quite a lot of detail. And then the other thing which really struck me is I was listening to a couple of guys who had near-death experiences and got a taste of hell. And when they came back, and some of them had been dead for half an hour or longer, spirit had left their body, they went to hell, and then fortunately they came back. One thing which really struck me is that those reports these guys were making or giving was pretty much the same as what Enoch was saying, and I found this quite fascinating. And obviously these guys probably never knew that there was an Enoch. The book is not that known. There are not many people, even within Christian circuits, who would have laid their fingers on it, read it, possibly heard about it. Many of them probably wouldn't even know, but these guys certainly wouldn't have known about it. They came back and they had another chance to come back to life, and their lives totally changed based on this experience. I was reading some other stuff. It was really interesting things. There's one author, and he was writing about this, and he said that he was a doctor, and he was sort of resuscitating a lot of people. And one thing he noticed is that very often people who slipped out of life, came back into it, were totally horrified of hell. They'd just been to hell. They came back and they were, don't let me go back, keep me alive, do everything, shouting and screaming, total and utter panic. And eventually they stabilized the heart. People came back, and then in 2 or 3 days back, when they did ask him about the hell experience, they couldn't remember, and it's been totally thrown out of their mind. Now, this particular doctor is quite interesting to read. He wasn't a Christian; he was an atheist. And after one experience after the other, he went through on, in the operating theater, trying to resuscitate people, eventually came to Christ, and he realized that there is a God, and there is first of all, he came to realize there really is a hell, and therefore there must be a heaven, and there must be God as well. Now, Trey, tell me a bit more about what you remember from what Enoch was writing about the subject of hell. It's a big place, painful, torment, horrendous.
The senses appear to be hyper-intensified when you're in hell. You feel everything more intensely. And from any place in hell, what Enoch is describing to you, whether you're one of the fallen angels, it's in the deepest pit of Tartarus, there are levels to it. The fall, and hell is not a place that is run by Satan and his hordes. Hell is owned by God. It's a prison. And it is a removal of all access, and there are things in there that apparently come in and will torment you. So you will be in a place where you are isolated, you have access to nothing, and you will be tormented. Your body no longer sleeps, your senses are hyper-intensified. And from apparently the way Enoch is describing it, from any place in hell, it's like a cavernous place. Imagine you're stuck in like a scorched earth type version of earth. It's like the negative side of reality, which coincidentally is what all of those other ancient cultures, even the ones worshiping these gods, were saying. They're talking about the underworld. They're not talking about digging a hole and you're going to run into the underworld. In fact, they're drawing it to you just to make it clear that they're talking about a dimensional construct where there is another side of this place where there are real entities that are extremely powerful. And when you're in their that's why they're trying to appease them, is because they were in the desperate hope that in this horrible place, you want to stay alive as long as you can because you don't want to die. Not in Egypt, you don't, because you're going to have to face up to these underworld gods and you're going to be at their mercy because the belief was these are extremely powerful beings. It's a reverse side to reality that they believed was more real than this place. And it's not. I'm not terribly surprised that this is what Enoch is describing as well. And Michael is right on the fact that Enoch is not describing this like some kind of middle-aged text. He's not describing it like Dante's Inferno. He's not describing it like any of these things. He is describing it as a prison. Looking up above these people, you've got some kind of Enoch. Enoch described it as almost like a water barrier. It looked like water to Enoch, like some kind of glassy surface that somehow rippled or moved. But the people did not, by any stretch of the imagination, they can't get to that barrier, and they can't drink water from it. In the story of the rich man and Lazarus, the man's just begging for one drip of water in the place that he's in. But according to Enoch, you're looking up, and you're not only looking through something that looks sort of like water, but you're seeing the light on the other side of it. And you're seeing all of the things that you're missing. You are conscious, and you are watching. And in the case of the rich man and Lazarus, of course, the rich man is begging that someone will go to his family, his brothers. Well, in the book of Enoch, this is not dissimilar. Everybody has got their eyes, including God, focused on earth. So here we are on earth, and we're bumbling loose. We really don't know. Hey, man, I just want to do my thing and party, and I really want a better car. And so we're sort of the bumbling buffoons in this whole story, right? That we really don't know what we're doing. We sort of fall over to the right and to the left and all these other directions. The people in hell are looking at their own family members who they want not to come, and they wish that they could talk to for one more breath. This is what Enoch is describing also. And this is also the reality for those demons, those watchers. They're watching you, and they'd like to prey on you because you have something they don't. And their ultimate fate is right under their feet. They're not quite in hell yet, but they're standing right on top of it, and they can see it. And where you're standing in your reality, you have more freedoms than they could possibly imagine. It would be their greatest dream to be you for just 1 hour.
Yeah.
That's what they wish.
They're
watching.
Watching. This is one thing about the Bible. I mean, Jesus has got the story. It's in the Gospel according to Luke. And that's the story of the rich man and poor Lazarus. And it's just a description. Interestingly, a lot of people who come back and probably don't have much Bible knowledge of being to hell say a similar story. There are a couple of things they all come up with. One of them, they're really concerned about all the people left behind, which is quite strange. They realize they're in this horrible place. They realize they're there justifiably. Yeah, they know they're there for a reason. They know all the stuff they've done wrong, and they know that they belong there. That's a sensation people have. And then at the same time, there's a concern for the people left behind not to end up in this place. And a lot of people who have had this experience, they reported the same thing. So very interesting. Now, the thing is, and it really, really strikes me, when you think about hell and when you think about this horrible place, now, it's real. That's a problem. It's absolutely real. And everybody, I've read about, I think maybe 20, 30 different reports about this. And everybody sort of in this report was, like you said, stating that the sensation is far more real than here on earth. Yeah, they felt more alive. Yeah, even though they were in this horrible place, they had an acute sense of hearing, an acute sense of vision, and an acute sense of pain as well. And the pain there was more than anything they'd ever experienced here on earth. And and there's no rest, there's no peace, there's no sleeping, there's no water. It's interesting as well. No water whatsoever, and yet they long for water. Yeah, and this was again story of Lazarus and the rich man ending up in hell. And then the other thing as well, they can see to the other side, but from the other side, from paradise, you don't see the stuff that's going on in hell. Now, one important thing is, we're talking about hell here. My real concern is, especially listeners out there, if you don't take this serious, if you don't take your relationship with God serious, you're going to end up in hell. There's no ifs, there's no buts, you will be there. And you really need to get your act together. And Jesus said in one instance in the Gospel of John, if whoever believes in him, that's in Jesus, has crossed over from death to life, he will not see death. And in a different way, whoever does not believe in him stands condemned already. And that means your destiny, if you reject Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, maybe talk a little bit more what this really means. But if you don't reach out to Jesus Christ, your destiny is programmed. It's there. It's hell. You may think, just a couple of idiots here on the radio talking to you, but I'm challenging you. It's real. Just reach out to God. Yeah, and God knows where you are. God knows who you are. And God can talk to you in the way, wherever you are. It doesn't need to be Trey and myself to do this talk to you. I'm just challenging you to reach out to God and to really seek truth and to ask God to reveal himself to you and to just check it out, whether what the Bible is talking about Jesus Christ, whether this is right or not. It's not me talking to you, but you need to find it out yourself. Otherwise, this is your destiny. And this destiny is something I don't want you to go to wherever you are. Trey.
There's a flip side to this entire coin. Yes, hell is real. There's no there's a lot of dodging this, and there's no way around that. There's a flip side to this coin, because Enoch doesn't just go to hell, and the Bible is not just talking to you about hell. And the purpose of this is not just to scare you into believing something. The purpose of this place really is a choice, and there's nothing that more clearly illustrates this, in my opinion, than the book of Enoch. When he is there walking through paradise, when he goes into paradise. Now, hell he was able to describe for you because it's lesser than earth. Heaven, he continually tells you, I wish I could describe what I'm seeing, but it's so beautiful. It's just more than me. And their people, the people that are already there. Now Enoch is telling you a difference between before the Son of Man comes and afterwards. So he's actually giving you two different versions of what hell is. He's giving you the before Jesus version, which has what I believe that the Christians or the Jews are calling Abraham's bosom. And he's also talking about paradise, which is what Jesus looked over and said to that thief on the cross when the thief said, "Will you remember me in your kingdom?" And Jesus looked over and said, "Assuredly, today you shall be with me in paradise." Enoch, in speaking about this place, paradise, said, I didn't want to return to the earth. I didn't want to go back. After I had been there, I didn't want to go back. And when he came back, he said, I couldn't relieve it. I can't get it out of my head. The place here, the earth, it doesn't feel real to me. It doesn't feel like that place. Now, the people in heaven, and I want you to watch this, the people in paradise, they're looking down at the people on earth, their loved ones, the people, and they're rooting for them, and they're getting crushed when the people that they're looking at are doing things that they know are leading them, because they're seeing more than what you see. And they're praying for you, but God is not listening, probably at all, to the people in hell, or at least very little. The people in paradise, they're in paradise. He's listening to their prayers. But the people he's really listening to in that text are the people that everybody is quote unquote watching. The people that know the least are the ones that God is listening to the most, which is why the demonic ceremonies work, because what you invite in, even unknowingly invite in, you've got permissions and authority. When you're speaking to God, when you're speaking to your Heavenly Father, according to those pages of Enoch, he is not only listening, he cares about the smallest thing that you care about. And behind every person, and I promise you this, that you find that comes out of drugs or they should have died 18 jillion times, you're going to find a little grandmother somewhere that was praying for them every day. And God was not set out to go do that, but he was listening. According to Enoch, he was listening to somebody that was begging on their behalf when they didn't deserve it. And the entire story of Jesus Christ is one of God so loved the world that he was willing to forget all of it. See, those angels they were terrified when little bitty Enoch, a little bitty flesh and blood man, comes in to these powerful beings and says, a sentence has gone forth to put you in bonds. You shall never again ascend into heaven for all eternity. These beings, archangels, were screeching in terror at that statement. Because though we mock and we do these other things, see, we're infants in something we don't really understand, and we're just boppling around. But those beings were not at all confused about what this meant and how this worked. And that's why you're reading in the text that they're screaming. Every person who has stood before God, and whether you're dealing with Daniel or you're dealing with Enoch or you're dealing with John in the book of Revelation, they hit their face and they tremble when they first see how real what we're talking about is. We read that as just a piece of text that slips by, but the first thing that starts is I hit my face with trembling. And the first thing that God does, or Jesus does, is say, look up, peace be with you. He's on your side. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if God takes strolls to this place sometimes. The more I read the text, the more I realize this isn't about hell. Hell was never designed for mankind.
No, true.
Hell, the place that is designed for you is so incredible that it's beyond comprehension. And no, I wouldn't be surprised at all if God sometimes took walks through this place, maybe even walked into an ice cream store, buy all the kids some ice cream, just a little man that walks in, nobody knows where he came from, nobody knows who he was or where he went to. I got the kids some ice cream on a hot day. And I know what you're saying to yourself. That sounds insane. Nobody has seen God. But you're missing a part of that. No one has seen him as he is. He doesn't strike me as a God that is separated from mankind in any shape, form, or fashion. He cares about us, and in those pages of Enoch, he's listening to you more than he's listening to the people in paradise.
It's fascinating stuff. I want to underline that. I think this is, listener, if you never thought about God and you've just tuned into this program, you think, what's going on here? You know, who are these guys? What are they talking about? I want to encourage you to just reach out to God. Reach out to God, and you can expect God will answer you. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating when you experience the living God coming into your life. I have to wind it up, Trey. A little bit over time already, but I think it's important stuff we were talking about tonight. Maybe just to make the point right at the end, the message of the gospel. I think this has to come out. What is this all about? And then Trey, you made some points, and you said that the name Yahweh. What does it mean again? I thought it was a really interesting point. First time I've heard about this, but that's a bit of a revelation.
Behold the hand, behold the hands, behold the nails. And the purpose of that entire Bible, all of the pages that you're reading are it is an integrated message. It's conveying, it's God's love letter to mankind. And this is not about rules, and it's not about laws, and it's not about in fact, it's completely the reverse of that. What it is about is a condition of the heart. You have things here that are like God, and you have things here that are not. The purpose of Jesus Christ and that death on the cross, he walked through all of the little rules, all of the little laws. He abided by rules and laws that would drive most of you listening to this show insane. He went through all of these little things, and then he died as a blemishless sacrifice. But what does that mean? That's just a word. What did he do? This is 2,000 years ago. What did he do? He paid the price for every rule you've broken. See, and those angels understood that. Everything here has laws, everything from the cells to the physics, your day-to-day life. It all has, every action has a reaction or a consequence, okay? So there's been a lot of actions that have occurred that you've done, I've done, everybody, every one of us, none of us are worthy, lest any man should boast. So this was a gift. Now, what does that gift mean? It means this. It means that just because you make a mistake or you do something that hurts someone else, or you do this or you do that, that you dust yourself off and you keep going, because it's about the intent. That's what a relationship is. That's what people are saying when they say you're having a relationship with Jesus. Well, I don't know Jesus. He lived 2,000. How could I know Jesus? What you are knowing, when Jesus said, when you look at me, you're seeing the Father. So whether you're talking about Jesus or God himself, you're looking at the qualities of the heart of God. And is your heart after those same kind of qualities? Are you after love? Or conversely, are you conniving behind the scenes? Is your heart saying to you, how can I cut that other person down so that I can get ahead? Or so that how can I take away what that person has so that I can, is your heart one of flourish and love? Then that shall be your nature and your eternity. If your heart is seeking after little things of violence and little things of control, I believe that you will find there are things that are more violent and more able to control than you. And you will be with them. And that shall be your lot. And you get to choose that lot. And that's what's saying, Lord Jesus, thank you. From the beginning of the Bible till the end of the Bible, God, from his own creation, has the highest love for those that say thank you. Thank you for making me. Thank you for making this world that I'm in. Thank you for giving me the family that I have. Thank you for giving me the small things that I don't pay attention to. Lord, please bless my hands and my lips, the words that I say. May they be blessings to those around me and not curses. Lord, let me seek your will that I may have joy in this life. Let me find a fullness of prosper in my years. Let me have a fullness of prosper in this life and the next. Father God, accept me even with my faults. Forgive me, Father, for the things that I do even when I don't know that I do them. Make me acceptable in your sight. Show me, Father, the things that I can discover in this world, Lord. Show me the things before my eyes, Father, that are of you, the things that I can discover and find in this place that I didn't know. Show me, Father, who it is that I really am. Because I'll tell you this, that before you know or begin to pursue God, you're not really pursuing God. You're truly beginning to find out who you even are. Before that, you're just a consuming thing, like a locust that knows that it wants to eat something next, that it knows that it wants to devour something else, and it's not even you thinking. It's something else behind the scenes that's pushing you to do all these little pushy things. Your relationship with God has nothing to do with who you are in public. It has to do with who you are, not just in private, but in the innermost part of your being. And I believe that you will find that by saying, Lord, I lay down everything, is the statement that gains you everything. That is the purpose of that book, and the purpose of everything you see on every page, from the Old Testament to the book of Enoch to the New Testament, and in fact everything you see in this material world that you're in is not just about God. The focus of all of it is Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Every last little piece. And nothing in your life is by coincidence. Not one little detail. You can let a lot of them slip by. But I will tell you this, no matter who you are on the other side of this radio show, that everything that occurs in this world, in your day-to-day life, is working a design. It has patterns to it. And the quicker you begin to watch those and notice those, the quicker you'll understand exactly what I'm telling you is true. And there are many of you listening to my voice that you've had experiences with things that you've probably written out off. You've said, well, gee, that shouldn't happen. Maybe you've had something occultic happen. Maybe you've seen something happen that shouldn't have happened. The more that you're willing to write off and just say, I'm going to close my ears and my eyes, and I'm going to go with the flow, well, the only thing that I can share with you is I can tell you where the flow is headed. For you not to go with the flow means that you have to open your eyes. You have to examine things. You have to not believe even the words that I am telling you now. Because this is something that you have to find on your own. In whatever way that you do, you run whatever direction that you want. But you have to at least be searching. And you have to be willing to drop every preconceived idea that you've had. And that applies to me. I find out that I'm wrong so often. The most liberating feeling is that it no longer matters to you when you're wrong. But that you're just trying to find out what is the truth. And I have every confidence that if you do that, you'll find more than even I've found. And you'll find things that will be so incredible that they will be endless in your life. If you go the other way, this life will be the same as it always has been. And more than this, you're deciding your eternity with every breath that you have. I'm Trey Smith, and I love you on the other end of this radio show. And yes, it is my strongest opinion